Okay guys, while you were gone, I took my file and I cleaned up, not all the way, but just knocked down a lot of the excess DevCon that was from these earliest merge points, and just to kind of clean things up a little bit so we don't have these big lumpy gunky things getting in the way. Since now we're working on more the kind of the finished, like not just sticking pieces together and seeing what we come up with, now we kind of have an idea of, okay, this is kind of what it's going to look like. So in order to fine-tune things, I'm just trying to dress up some of the little ugly spots just to kind of help bring the, make it less distracting so I can focus more on, instead of seeing, oh, there's all these lines vertically this way, being able to see the actual character lines that this thing has. So I'd sanded down, and nothing crazy, just knocked down the high spots basically and made it relatively flat. I also hot glued the grip into place just for testing, and did a whole lot of this and pewing bad people and things like that, just to make sure that it was going to be comfortable. I mean, after the fact, I mean, it's one thing to stick the grip on there and say, "Wow, this is really comfortable," and you know, that was the initial excitement of, hey, we put this brand new thing on, this is really exciting and fun. Let it sit in a little bit and gave it a couple days and just kind of looked at it a lot, looked at pictures and said, okay, I'm confident that I'm actually happy with how this looks. For right now, we're going to hold off on completing the bodywork here because I have an ammo counter on the way that's going to be an integrated system. I think we're going to mount it on the side. Going to look at Ammo Counter's universal kit that's got the little rail mounted housing, but I'm going to cut the rail mount off and just bond the housing right to the shell, and then I don't know what I'll use to blend it in. I might use some bits of scrap blaster shell to kind of bring the aesthetics in, since as I recall, the Ammo Counter housing is just flat and black and doesn't really have any character or personality and stuff. Although the Centurion itself is pretty slab-sided, so we'll kind of wait and see how it goes when that comes. So, because it's going to be in this area, I want to wait until we have it in hand, we can see how large the components are, because we may need to open up this space in here, inside, for housing either the computer, the electronics inside, the actual module itself, or probably not the battery. I think the battery I will run an extended lead to the actual battery compartment and put a place in there. That way all the battery action is in the back, and so we'll have the display hugging in real close, like, where's the, hang on a second. It's, obviously this is oversized and everything, but it'll kind of sit like this, although much smaller, and it'll hug in a lot tighter, to where when you're, aiming down it, you're basically able to sight across the top of the blaster, but peripherally see the counter in action. So it'll kind of sit, kind of roughly in that area, and we won't be able to tell for sure until, like I said, we have it in hand, can hold it up and do the trimming and actually look at, put it, say, this is what this is going to be right here. Then we can figure out where the electronics are going to go. Once we've got that established, we can go and finish up the bodywork here. But we have another hurdle to look at, which is the trigger. So today we're going to be looking at the trigger. So it's been a while since we've had this open, so I don't think I have any screws holding this together. So we should be able to just give it a little wiggle and shimmy and come open. All right. So, yuck. What we have here is the Centurion trigger, and let's get this out of here for a minute. Just a minute though. We have Centurion trigger, and we have Strife linkage. So, let me find the old Strife trigger, and let's see if we can connect the two, or see what it's going to take to connect the two. So we have Strife trigger, which will fit in, okay, both these are rest, will fit in kind of like that. So the Strife works. We just need to incorporate this guy. So it looks like I'm just trying to find the top of the line here, and there's this kind of goofy little step down. But let's zoom in a little bit. Got that wrong every time. So there's kind of this little step down and weird stuff happening here, which doesn't really seem. Well, apparently it had something to do with that guy, whatever that was. So that's not an issue. So I'm thinking if we can basically bring this down, to the right level and orientation, and basically cut out, up in this area, and kind of follow similarly the same little cutout, then which actually won't be much. It'll just be about halfway, and then I'm hoping we can use DevCon. Sometimes some of the plastic bits are made out of a weird magic plastic that doesn't like the DevCon as much. I'm hoping the triggers are the good stuff that we like. I've never done this kind of trick before, so that's why I'm hoping it works. Basically, cut it off so they mesh together. Then we'll use a bunch of DevCon, and we'll probably see if we can find a scrap of something to act as kind of a gusset, kind of fill in some of this area. That way the load is shared a little better, so you don't have all the force, because the leverage and geometry and stuff is going to get a little weird, because instead of pulling from here, we're going to be pulling from down here, so you're going to basically be twisting this just a little bit as well when it's operating. So there's going to be a lot of stress down here, so if we can kind of move this back so that everybody's kind of, in this area is sharing the load, then that'll make everything happier. So let's get this guy in here, and we'll see. Okay, now everybody's forward, and just for this purpose, we'll put this spring in, even though it's probably going to cause us problems later. So we know that the Centurion trigger is forward. We have the strife in the forward position. So we can see, I'm going to get my head in the way probably. We have just a little bit here. And we'll take this guy out of his little pocket and line him up this way. Just get an idea of the height. Move this back to the rear position, keeping the same height, and get an idea of, okay, here's the height we're going to be dealing with, because this is where the interference with this trigger is. So if we cut this guy off here, and we'll just cut him off to this first little vent hole thing in the trigger. And just for the heck of it, let's just rough it out at first. We know there's some kind of intricate little whoop-de-doos here, but we do know that we have... Actually, I almost jumped the gun. Instead of cutting this off straight, because the strife trigger comes forward of the Centurion trigger a little bit, there's this a little bit of space on the front, that if we can maintain the strife trigger part on there, you're also going to be pulling, as far as the action and stress of the trigger moving around. If we can kind of basically lock the strife trigger around the Centurion trigger, then it'll make things a little more solid. Instead of having a shear joint where you have, this piece and this piece, and this piece is pulling this way, essentially you're going to kind of key them together a little bit, so it'll be moving, or spreading the load a little bit. So we're going to hope for that. So that being said, let's put that in the forward position. You know what, just for starters, I think we'll just cut that much off. I'm gonna cut the line. Now, again, we're having the width of the marker issue. I was gonna say we'll just cut it off right here in the second little trigger vent thing. But when I was making the mark, I was marking above the line. So I need to cut below the line, not cut the line itself, cutting below the line. So we're going to come in just underneath the middle vent hole thing on the trigger. And just for the heck of it, because the Dremel's over there and because I've got this here, we'll see if we can nibble this guy off. Ooh, golly. Oh, pick on that guy. Get out of here. Okay, initial thoughts are this plastic seems a little more brittle, so I'm hoping it's not some of that weird stuff that the DevCon doesn't like. We're going to find out shortly. But I'm kind of afraid. Whew. That was close. A little chunk just broke off. We'll call that quits for a second and get a progress report. Okay, there's not going to be much. Zoom in. Dang it. Whew. There we go. Okay, just eyeballing. You can kind of sneak under here and see. There's not going to be much left of this rear part after we cut it around in order to fit around the Centurion trigger. So that was an immediate concern, but since we're not using the return spring, which neither did the Strife, so Hasbro, what the heck are you doing? Maybe what we can do is trim off these little ears on either side and use this area as well in our solidifying, strengthening process. You know what? This guy's gonna tick me off, so let's just take him off for a minute. Since that part of things really isn't so important right now. So we'll bump him up and over there. There, we still have the slidey bit, so we can still have that satisfaction. But right now I really want to be able to just drop that in like that. So, one thought is the Centurion trigger, being a Springer, just has to go pop, but a Strife has to push the dart, so it's got like a more of a paw. Actually, it's not even a pop, it's a vzzt. So Strife might have more travel on the trigger, so we'll need to look into that, which it looks like I trimmed on something here. It's been a while since this series started, so I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but it looks like I increased the travel. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I modified that a little bit so we get an increased trigger travel, so I'm going to... Oh, okay. Well, judging by that slot right there, we are still going to need a little more room. So, what to do? But you know what? It's gonna be there. It's gonna go like. Can we? Let's see. Can we move? Looks like there's a little room here. Can we move this trigger forward a little bit? Because it doesn't look like we can really go back any further. That's pretty much maxed out in the shell. So, something fell out, didn't it? No, I don't think so. Okay. So yeah, I think since we can't really go back any further, let's see if we can wiggle it forward just a little bit. Which is going to involve opening up these little holes, which... Oh yeah, Centurion was real screwy. I don't know why the heck we need this whole train over here moving around. We might lop off, you know, like this back one. Or once everything's solidified, we can probably just get away with like this one and maybe this one. So I think for the time being, just to make things easier, we'll keep this whole operation going. But, that's going to change things. So, because if the trigger is coming farther forward initially, that's going to change the relationship between the Strife trigger and the Centurion trigger. So, let's work on extending the length of draw on the trigger and move it forward a little bit. Like I said, we can't move the trigger back any further because it's already maxed out. So let's see if we can move it forward just a little bit before we stick them together. Which That'd be the best way of doing that. We need these slots, essentially, to be the same length as this slot, which, at this moment, we're like an appreciable distance away still. So... Alright, Centurion Trigger. Party's over, man. I'm gonna call it. This guy's gotta go. I'm going to say, worst case scenario, you have this guy here, everything's cool. We don't need everything back here, so I think this is me making a harsh judgment, and this might come back to bite me. But I'm gonna hope. So let's get rid of... Pardon me, let's just cut this guy off. We're gonna cut this guy off. Oh my gosh, look at how simple that is to work with. Except, dang it, now this thing's all floppy because the guide was back here that kept the alignment right. This is why people don't do cool things with Centurions, except for cut this area off. So, let's, okay, hang on a second, let's look at this. Hey! Okay. That almost solved everything in the world, didn't it? Retard. I'm not gonna go too far with this, actually, even though I just cursed it. He's gonna sit right there for a minute. So, we have this going on, which still doesn't give us enough travel. So, let's see, this really the only thing going on is these little bits here. Zoom in time. Am I going to get it right this time? Yes! Okay. Whew. Okay. There's these little notched out bits. Here you can see the line there and a line there that kind of help say, hey, trigger, stop here. Well, we're going to encourage it to let the trigger go forward a little further. So that sounds like a job for, what do we got to work with? Is this file? Will the file work? No, we don't want to do that and run the risk of cutting down into this material here. So where's my blade? Where's my blade? Yes, that's, this blade is broken several times, but I don't have any more number 11s. So we'll just do a little wiggling here. And let's get an approximation of where we're going first. Let's put this guy the right direction. Put him all the way back, put that guy all the way back, and say, we need you to go zoom. Okay, we're missing about that much, so he needs to go. Is there something else at work? Yeah. Boy, okay, this little spring rest thing is running into things back here. It's probably gonna kill me again. So let's because we're running into the front that we need to clear out, but the back part here, this round bit, is causing some problems. So before I get too because I'd hate to like carve out this hole back here and give it room, because then at rest it's going to be like, hey, what's that round thing on the back of the trigger? That's weird. So I'm going to say, let's trim the sides, these little round bits off the sides, and if we need to, I'm hoping that the return spring here will do everything we need it to, but I'm banking on the geometry being weird, and we may have to put even just kind of a lightweight spring back here just to keep everybody happy. But if we eliminate the spring rest, well, then that's going to be problems. But this stub here is so long that I think we could add a spacer and put a little washer or something back here further if we need to. So let's go ahead and trim that guy off. Okay, that's closer. So like we were talking before. Oh, hey. I think this will at least work for the top one. Now that looks roughly like the length of the slot on the Strife that wasn't being used in this travel when it was tied to the Centurion trigger, so I'm going to say that looks like a good place to start. So and it was a bit of an angle, so let's... And I have a feeling we have this little reinforcement bit there. I have a feeling that's going to cause problems for us. But instead of cutting it out, I'm just going to trim a little bit off of this guy, since I don't think we need that whole length of support on there. So we'll just give it a little snippy. Snippy. Okay, and we'll just kind of slide in here. And now, there's some people out there that would probably just 3D print from scratch, you know, design their own setup that does both and looks cooler and doesn't have any of these other little goofy things, but that's not me. So we're going to try to build weird stuff out of junk we have, because that's more my style, but hopefully it'll look nice in the end. Okay, that's better. Let's mock this up. Let's get this guy out of here again. Ha! Cool. So what we have here is more or less... This guy's lined up right. Come on. Okay, all the way forward, all the way forward. What? Oh, I thought I had it working. Yeah, see, that works. Why didn't that work last time? Okay, I think we're in the ballpark.